Hello everyone, this is part 2 of What If Naruto Was Abused and Obtained Mokuton, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to see more comment down below. Now let's a problem. Kiba grumbled, seeing Naruto casually walk toward them. It wasn't that Kiba necessarily hated Naruto, he just disliked the effect the blonde had on Hinata. And his often sly way of talking. If they were in front of people, he usually ended with a red face, painted with either humiliation or extreme anger. Hinata quickly turned around, forgetting whatever she had been doing with Kurenai. The genjutsu master released a long breath as she too turned to the incoming blonde. Shino was the only one whose reaction was much more subtle. Then again, Kiba had competition and with Hinata it was the object of her affections. What do you want? Kiba stepped forward, Akamaru along with him. The dog growled, though Naruto's reaction was an amused mask, which only seemed to make Kiba angry. What's so funny? You, team, you want to receive a beating. From you. Wouldn't it be more appropriate to say a biting? In that case no, I would rather not. Kiba glared for a long second and then let loose of a long breath. He was getting worked over and if he continued, Naruto was just going to press him and the laugh all the way to Ichiraku Ramen. That is no way to treat someone, Kiba. Kurenai's voice was stern, and she had her eyes right at Naruto. You don't know him well, Kurenai-sensei. That was true. Kurenai knew of the blonde. Who didn't? All the Jonin knew of Naruto Uzumaki. If you went to the streets, and asked about a blonde with whisker marks, they'd point to him. But Kurenai had never spoken to him. Not once. She didn't even remember being so closer to him that he could step on her shadow. So, she didn't know him. She had never displayed any curiosity in knowing him. He didn't make any trouble with anyone. Mokuton. There was a rumor, but the village didn't confirm it nor deny it. But that was still not enough to interest Kurenai. He was here now, and she wished she knew him. Kiba could be rude, but he wasn't hostile. Dogs will always bark when they feel their territory is under dark. Naruto's voice was light, almost careless. But Kiba, why must you display wild instincts like this? I don't like you. Akamaru barked as if to agree with Kiba. Wow, I'm hurt, and I thought we had a special relationship. Naruto wiped out a fake tear and then turned to face Hinata. Can you believe this, Hinata-chan? Kiba-chan doesn't like me. What did I do? Team, don't bring Hinata into this. Naruto chuckled, waving past Kiba. He stopped in front of Hinata, smiling warmly. She had her hands around her chest, poking her fingers with her cheeks reddening. Her reactions were always amusing and he enjoyed teasing. Hello, Hinata, UHM, she mumbled something and looked down, but kept her fingers tangling. Naruto put his hand under her chin, lifting her head to face him. My Hinata, you feel a little hot. Want to take off that jacket? Held back from laughing when her eyes closed and she nearly fell. But he caught her and laid her down gently. She had simply fainted. You did that on purpose. Kiba stared. Did what? Was I not supposed to speak to her nicely? Naruto asked, acting oblivious to what he had just done. You know what I'm talking about. Naruto smiled. Of course he did. And he did what he did not because he disliked Hinata or anything. Actually, he liked her honesty and that she liked him. She did need to start behaving normal. But he teased her because he wanted her to step out of her comfort zone and start getting used to his presence. Are you just jealous that you don't have the same effect on her? Before Kiba could respond, Kurenai clapped her hands to get their attention. She stared at Naruto, just wondering what he wanted. His relationship with Kiba was something else. But there didn't seem to be malice and he had already greeted Shino already by nodding his head. Why would you do something like that? Kurenai asked, a bit more sternly than she would have liked. But her stern tone didn't seem to have registered with Naruto. In fact, he didn't even twitch as he responded in a casual tone. Hinata is purely kind. She is afraid of harming others. A wrong attitude for a kunoichi. But glaringly, she lacks confidence. We learn by experience. The more I am closer to her, the more my presence becomes tolerable to her and she can be brave enough to speak. So, he wasn't doing that just for a laugh. She had gotten the wrong thought. He was trying to help Hinata. He could do it in a better way. She did lack confidence, and her fear of harming others is the reason she lost her title as heiress of the Hyuga clan. What can we help you with, Naruto? Ah yes, Naruto stepped toward the Jonin. Kurenai was a wonderfully looking woman. Her ruby eyes were alluring. He smiled, wondering if he should comment on her looks. But then figured since she was older and he was just a brat, she might think he was some pervert. The others he knew. Kiba he knew. Shino he knew. With Hinata, it was simple. He adapted himself to their personalities. To suit himself and to know how to predict them. It was nice living like that. Focusing on the Jonin, Naruto spoke once more with a smile. Kurenai Yuhi, should I call you Kurenai-sensei? That is fine. Kurenai-sensei then, Naruto's expression changed slightly. It was a little more serious. I have been training and my teammate has exposed a fatal flaw in me. Genjutsu. I have been told that you are the best genjutsu user in the village. And I want to learn a couple of things. Well, not become a genjutsu master. But I want to have an understanding that will help me be able to counter it. I came here to request your help and would be grateful if you could help. He bowed slightly. Kurenai was taken aback by the request. A genin wanting to learn a little about genjutsu. Not even her students had asked that much of her. Why do you want to understand it, not master it? I think at the moment, trying to master it would be impossible for me. My teammate can master genjutsu fine. She is smart enough. But what helps her is that she has perfect control over her chakra. But that is to be expected since she has this much. Naruto raised an index finger making a tiny symbol. On the other hand, my chakra levels are just too huge for me to perfectly control now. I can and will, but now I have other priorities. Kurenai looked thoughtful for a moment. I'll speak to your sensei first, maybe the Sandaime. Naruto was not just any brat after all. The third Hokage would have keen interest in what is taught the blonde. Of course, Naruto replied with a nod. I look forward to hearing from you, Kurenai-sensei. He turned away, facing Kiba and then smiled. See you around, Kiba-chan, he said, and then disappeared in a puff of smoke. Kurenai blinked. Was that a Kage Bunshin? A knock at the door, who could it be? Hardly. Did anyone ever come to his door? Naruto would never claim to be the most social animal. But he does become loud when in crowds. Oh, it's the perverted Sannin. It was a subdued response from Naruto that made Jiraiya raise an eyebrow. He was a Sannin and the blonde couldn't show enthusiasm at having a figure like him knock on his door. Brats of today. They had no respect for the elder generation. Then again, Jiraiya could never say that he had a great relationship with the blonde. It wasn't that Naruto disliked him or anything, he was just indifferent to him. Unexpectedly, his expectations when he first appeared before Naruto was a look of awe and praise, but Naruto hadn't even recognized him at first glance. Even when he gloriously introduced himself, there was not even a change of emotion. What is with that response? Jiraiya asked, as he stepped inside Naruto's apartment. He'd been warned not to just burst inside as if the place belonged him. And he wasn't going to make the same mistake twice. Naruto shut the door behind him and then walked over to his kitchen where the table was littered with scrolls. He sat down, picked up a scroll, silently studied it for a couple of moments and then glanced at the Jiraiya who was looking at him questionably. You came at a wrong time, that is why. Once you realize I came here for you with a gift, you won't be saying that. Naruto raised an eyebrow. You sound excited. Well, I am going to give you something that is really powerful and of which I am a custodian. Oh. Naruto stared back the scroll. Mokuton truly was powerful, but also difficult. The jutsu he needed to do and performed by the Shodai Hokage required a great deal of chakra. He was burning a lot more because of adequate chakra control. He needed to get better to be able to execute this jutsu. The simple things that Yamato did could be done. But they bored Naruto. They lacked imagination. The monstrous feats performed by the Shodai however excited him. But at the same time frustrated him because of how complex they were. Either way, once he got a grasp of everything, he would be sitting pretty. I don't think it would be anything more important than Mokuton. Even better, at least from where I stand. Jiraiya grinned. I want you to sign a toad contract. You'll be able to summon the toads during battle and you will even become a sage, like me, and the Yondaime Hokage. The Shodai Hokage was also a sage. If you learn this, it will strengthen your jutsu. I've read that sage are extremely powerful. These scrolls do point to the power of sage jutsu. That is why I said this was important. The excitement in Jiraiya was clearly apparent. What stopped him from raving was Naruto's indifference. Naruto folded the scroll he was reading and then faced Jiraiya. By the way, I'm just a clone. Jiraiya blinked, and then stared. How had he not recognized that? Before he could even say anything, the clone disappeared in a puff of smoke. Forest of Death. Jiraiya found Naruto sitting on dense roots, head resting on the palm of his right hand, with his legs folded. He moved closer, and then touched the roots. Naruto must have created it. He hadn't thought that the blonde had improved this much with his control over Mokuton. Last time, Naruto could only create a clone. But as he was told by the Sandaime, Naruto thought the Mokuton clones were useless, unless he was embedding explosive tags within them. What is it about the Toad contract? Jiraiya stared at Naruto. His expression was flat, but he was looking directly at him. Whether he was interested or not was another matter. He had found that even when the blonde was smiling at times, he was difficult to read. But having lived in the environment he found himself within, Naruto must have learned to read expressions better than anyone, and that meant being able to school his features as well. Why couldn't I realize it was a clone? That. Naruto changed positions. It is a simple matter of chakra. With me, you can only tell which is which by measuring up my chakra levels. If you know me enough, you'll tell the difference. Considering that you have not seen me in a couple of years, it is understandable that you could not tell. I see, you don't sound happy to see me, more or less, Jiraiya grumbled. Naruto blinked. Must I be? He tilted his head slightly. He knew why Jiraiya always tried to get closer to him. And it had nothing to do with the Kyuubi or Mokuton. If it was Yamato, he could understand. It was about his parents. Jiraiya just could never be open about it, like his sensei. Must you not be? At times, Jiraiya wondered just how smart Naruto was. Sometimes, he thought the blonde was manipulative. There was evidence to back it up, it was just something he felt whenever Naruto opened his mouth. At this, he thought that Naruto was trying to take him toward another subject that he didn't want to entertain. I don't see a reason I should be, you are just Jiraiya the Toad Sage to me. There is no other relations I could speak of. If it was Kakashi-sensei, I could smile. He is my sensei. Naruto shook his head and then changed the subject. The contract. Why do you want me to sign it? I want to take you as my student in the near future. Oh, that is surprising. That would be cool. Naruto stood up. But we can talk about the contract then. I'm little familiar with how that works. But I suppose toads would be a lot more helpful as partners in battle compared to Kakashi-sensei's summons. But it doesn't answer why I must be your student. You rarely take students. Must there be a reason for wanting to take a student? Yes. There has to be reason. It is either it is something personal or you just see the potential and want to mold it. That is reason enough. Naruto already knew the reason. He knew, but he didn't like people trying to get close to him under false pretense. Weren't there enough lies already? Must there be more to it? Jiraiya frowned. Naruto wasn't that starved of affection that he was willing to jump into the hands of anyone who showed him care. Perhaps he'd underestimated his strength and that he would have thought that just by simply showing up, the blonde would be all over him. It wasn't a matter of trust. Or maybe it was. After all, Naruto wanted to know the reason behind his goodwill. Jiraiya had reasons, but he didn't want to share. This was all going to give him a headache. The third is my sensei and he has asked me to look after you. You are a valuable member of Konoha who uses Mokuton. We have high hopes for you. The Sannin then grinned. You want to surpass even the Yondaime Hokage, don't you? I was his sensei. I can help you. Naruto jumped from the roots and landed beside Jiraiya. He held out his right hand, stared at it while deliberating events that could have possibly unfolded. The Sandaime couldn't have forced this on him. If anything, a better teacher for him was Yamato. If the old man was going to force a sensei on him, it would be his fellow Mokuton user. Jiraiya couldn't assist him with his training in that regard, so, it wouldn't make complete sense for the Sannin to be forced on him. I have been alone since I was born, Jiraiya-sama. Mokuton. Is that the only thing valuable about me? I have asked myself this question time and time again. Sometimes it is about the Kyuubi. I wonder, is it the only reason the Sandaime is even close to me? If it was because of the Beiyu, then he would have made sure I learned to control its power. But the Sandaime sees me as a child. I think, if it was possible, he'd rather I not even use the power. But that is just wishful thinking. One day, I will have to use this power. He glanced at Jiraiya at the corner of his eyes. I've already said, we can talk about the contract when we get to the stage where I learn from you. Is there anything else? He was losing this battle. The Toad contract was his entrance to Naruto's life. And what was that reasoning? It made him cautious, wary even, but he resisted the urge to look at Naruto with suspicion. You have no issues studying under me. My strength is my own and I already live under the cloud of the Kyuubi. My desire is to carve out my own identity. I do not want to be known as the student of the Sannin. I want to be Naruto Uzumaki. He looked up into the burning sun. Quickly, he looked away. I've been known by other names. Kyuubi brat. Demon. Many things. Studying under you gives me the chance to learn more valuable things. But I won't become your apprentice. The Yondaime was your apprentice, yes. If Jiraiya was not saddened by Naruto's talk, he would have been trying to argue with him. But he could understand. To want Naruto to adopt his ideals would be denying him what he has been denied all his life, an identity that he crafted for himself. That is fine. Is there anything else? You done training? You kind of ruined the mood. Besides, I'm feeling a little hungry. I need to eat, rest up, for there is more training later on with Sasuke. Naruto smiled. And oh, I'm not refusing your help. But there is one condition. What? I'll tell you when you come to tell me we should begin our training together. Hint, I lived my life not knowing why I was hated, every night asking myself why I was called a demon, the Kyuubi and other names. And that was because the old man refused to tell me. Had I known, things would have been simple and less painful. Making me sign the Toad contract means I become the next Toad Sage, your successor. If that is going to happen, if I choose to permit it, you'd have to start by showing me all your cards. If not, I will walk alone. I've done that for most of my life, building my own strength. And I know I can continue with it. Of course, he was only going to accept Jiraiya's help if he couldn't find the secrets behind the Shodai Sage Jutsu. Signing the Toad contract would be made pointless if he could attain the same sage power as the first. How is it even going with Mokuton? Jiraiya asked instead of responding to Naruto's statement. A look of frustration washed over Naruto. Frustrating, he replied. I suppose I do require guidance from Yamato. Jiraiya found Kakashi at the memorial stones. The Jonin was standing still, unmoving with a dark cloud hanging over his head. Some things were never going to change. The Jonin was still ravaged by guilt and regrets. His life has truly been a tragedy. It was no wonder he had failed prospective genin over the years, because he did not want the tragedy to repeat itself. Jiraiya stopped by the Jonin's right side and stared down. Rin. The teammate Kakashi had killed. He glanced at the Jonin through the corner of his left eye and spoke. We need to talk. Naruto. Kakashi responded after a few moments of silence. Yes. Kakashi continued staring at Rin's name for a couple of seconds before responding in a quiet tone. You spoke to him. If the Sannin was like this, then he had met the blonde genin. A complicated person, yet a person who took things in a simple manner. Perhaps it was because he had seen much worse. There would be no denying that. Yeah. Jiraiya paused, spreading his senses around. Once satisfied, he continued speaking. What am I missing? How far is he even with Mokuton? Kakashi adopted a thoughtful look on his face. He can defeat Sasuke, and that is someone hailed as a genius. He may be much stronger he looks. I don't know his full capacity with Mokuton. He doesn't use it that much. He rarely does so. I asked him about it and he said what he could do would be a mockery of what the Shodai could. He said it with an embarrassed look on his face. He sets higher standards for himself. But hardly surprising. He has good grasp of ninjutsu. How good? You'll see, Kakashi responded. But that is not what you came to talk about, is it? He may be a little difficult to crack. That is because Naruto is not gullible. He is independent and not too trusting. Just because you are Jiraiya doesn't mean he is willingly going to go with you. One more thing, he is adept to lies. He has seen people lie to him more than enough. There were times when he tried to make friends and it all ended horribly wrong. The best policy is just to avoid the issue than tell an outright lie. That was something the Sandaime was rather good at. But of course, Naruto wasn't going to trouble anyone but calling them on their lies. What did you want anyway? I wanted to have him sign the Toad contract and told him I wanted him to become my student. He smiled sadly. He didn't seem too thrilled about it. But he did not refuse. Naruto does value his independence. Still, just how smart is the brat? His words seemed intentionally leading. Kakashi shrugged indifferently. Most of the times, Naruto was a pleasant person with no hidden intentions. There was nothing suspicious about him. He had observed the blonde long enough. Smart enough. He reserves that attitude for you. And a little for the Sandaime. With everyone else, he is a delight. Training Ground 7 Naruto fell to the ground on his back, careless of the dust. He was just worn out and only wanted to take a nap. He ignored the pain when he hit the ground and glanced at his right. A battered and bruised Sasuke followed his example. He turned away from the last Uchiha and stared up at the green leaves that hid the sun from them. Training with Sasuke was brutal. But he enjoyed it. Sasuke was faster than him. He was a lot more fluid with his movements. A compliment he would never openly admit to the Uchiha, lest he puffs up that arrogance. Physical strength, Naruto had, and his reactions were improving. The first part was improving physical prowess. At any fight, you were going to use taijutsu. It was just the basic that sometimes proved to be the difference between victory and defeat. Itachi must be starting to get afraid now, Naruto said so purposely, just to see Sasuke's reaction. The reaction was predictably instant. Sasuke flashed a hateful look toward him. His amused look only served to press the Uchiha the wrong way. You're just predictable that way, Naruto faced the leaves. Not once did he think Sasuke would suddenly throw a kunai at him. After all, this was his partner. In missions, Sasuke was the one who watched his back, and he did so diligently. After a long moment, Sasuke bottled his anger and then responded. When are you going to start using that bloodline? You're going to ignore that talk just now. There is nothing to talk about. Naruto snorted. If you end up getting filled up by hot air, it is something to talk about. I fear that the day he appears before you, you are going to recklessly attack him even when you cannot even lick his boots. Sasuke glared at him through gritted teeth. You do not understand. Of course I don't know. I have never claimed to understand, but I know enough that at this stage, you're going to end up getting swallowed, Naruto smiled sadly. You are my friend. The only person I can truly call a friend in this village, and it would be sad if you did something reckless. How would you react to someone who killed your parents? Your entire clan just because he wanted to test his strength. The anger and pain. The betrayal. Naruto could feel it all. Sasuke must have truly looked up to his elder brother. Naruto could never understand what it meant to have an elder brother to love you. He had no one. Younger, he had come to believe that he may truly be what the village called him. I don't know. I have not yet hated someone to that level. But you know I'm a Jinchuriki. Sakura is ignorant, so, it can't be helped. Despite your superior complex, you must know just how I'm treated in this village. The same look you have when you think of Itachi, is the same look the villagers give me. Sasuke knew. He had known long ago how Naruto was viewed. He was loved and Naruto was hated. The fact that Sakura could not see this was just ludicrous. But she was that ignorant. She shouldn't be a kunoichi really. The Kyuubi caused a rampage in this village that killed many people. I can understand their hatred for it. Yes, that is why I'll say, in some ways, you and the villagers seem alike at times. Don't put me in the same bracket as those ignorant people. Sasuke replied in a stern tone. Seemingly offended. I understand their anger for the Kyuubi but not their hatred for you. Does not change anything. You are still the same. Hateful people who cannot see past their hatred. You ought to learn to control your emotions. I'm almost certain that you'd abandon anything just to kill your brother. Killing him is the reason I live. How I pity you, Sasuke. To simply dedicate your entire life to killing just one man. The Uchiha won't be revived. What honor is there in doing so? Instead of trying to create new memories of the Uchiha, you are just going on a dark path. Sasuke snorted. Dark path. What of you? Don't compare me to you, you hateful child. I'm content with my life. I have dreams. I have desires. Negative thoughts. I have them. There is no person doesn't have negative thoughts. The difference is that I don't indulge my thoughts. I master them. I control them. Sasuke wanted scoff but he knew better. When it came to self-control, Naruto had that. And he didn't seem to particularly hate the villagers for their treatment of him. What is your goal? Sasuke asked curiously. Naruto faced up into the sky and then replied. I have many things I want to achieve. So many things, Sasuke. Maybe you could say I want change. He paused, sensing a new chakra presence. And restoring your clan. Didn't you say you want to restore your clan? Naruto smiled. I'm certain that Sakura will be more than happy to carry your children. Sasuke groaned just thinking of the Pinkett. Why did you have to bring her up? Because she is coming. Sasuke's eyes snapped toward the clearing. There she was, blushing all the way toward him along with Ino. If it was not because he was tired, he would be getting up to flee. He hated her affections. They were a nuisance and she was nothing more than a burden in missions. She did not take anything seriously. If you say anything I find troubling, I'm going to stab you tomorrow when we train. That is just dark, Sasuke. Then again, you are the Dark Avenger of the Uchiha clan, Naruto said with a laugh. You should loosen up a little. Being stiff and broody is the reason those who know you actually hate your guts. Naruto sometimes didn't mince the words. But Sasuke was not bothered by it. Not even a little. Those insults didn't do anything to him. Is it just how you act all carefree in front of other people but then changed when you are alone? I don't even have a need for other people. What I need is power. Oh, you power-hungry fool. If you're not careful, you'll betray everyone one day. The love for power has driven many astray. But you probably don't care about that. You just want to kill your brother and would even sell your own soul to get the power. Naruto shook his head. It is truly sad. You fail to see what is important to life. He paused, sensing that Sakura and Ino were upon them. Seems like a serious conversation is happening here. Ino was the first to speak as she stopped beside him, staring into his eyes with her hands placed around her waist. Naruto smirked. Well, we were thinking about doing a double date. You know, you and me. Sasuke and his beloved Sakura-chan. He was saying that he secretly does crush over her. Sakura allowed herself to dream, just thinking about a shy Sasuke confessing his love for her. Her daydream was crushed when Ino burst out in laughter. It was just the kind of laugh that shattered all hopes. It was made worse when Naruto joined her. They were laughing at her. She was glared at the two and then looked at Sasuke. They are making fun of you, Sasuke-kun. Naruto snickered when the Uchiha ignored Sakura. Why would you say something like that? You have more chances with him than my dear Sakura. Arg. Naruto jumped. What the hell, Ino? How could you say something like that? I don't swing that way. Who'd even like this brooding bastard? Ino allowed an innocent smile to settle on her lips. Well, you have gone far better than Sakura. I mean, you two have kissed. She was trying to hold herself from laughing. Naruto fell on his butt and then leaned against the tree's trunk. An expressionless mask settled for a second as he replied. Don't remind me the horrors. But I remember you and your gang, led by the cheerleader-in-chief trying to kill me. Who are you calling a cheerleader? Sakura exclaimed, glaring at him. Naruto shrugged. You cheered and encouraged Sasuke at the academy. Even followed him home and then jeered anyone you perceived to be an enemy. Sakura had no response. Always when Naruto and Ino combined, she was always left without a place. She honestly envied their relationship. They never hung together, but whenever their paths crossed, they acted like best friends. Naruto was her teammate and she couldn't even interact with him in the same way. Then again, Naruto seemed to get along even with the others. He bickered with Kiba but that had to do with Hinata and it was always friendly. The same could be said about Sasuke. In her silence, Naruto spoke, addressing Ino. I frown with disappointment each time I think that you were actually part of that group, Ino. He said with a stare. The look on his face clearly complimented his words. Ino folded her hands across her chest. I was a child then. She huffed. You're an adult now. I've grown. Don't you know, once we become shinobi, we are no longer considered children. Those are just words of a brat who wants to enter the world of adults a little too early. Naruto shrugged. What brings you here? We just came to check up on you. Kakashi-sensei told me you were training here. Sakura answered. The usual training ground was currently off limits. The Anbu were supposedly using the forest for something and they were told to keep out. You spoke to Kakashi-sensei. It was Sasuke speaking, for the first time since the two girls arrived. He seemed curious about that. Well, Sakura smiled brightly. I wanted his help about my own training. I don't want to be left behind the two of you, and besides, she knew that sometimes, she was a drag to the others. Naruto always had to save her when things became dangerous. Things are looking bright, Naruto remarked. So, how about our double date? Who said I want to go on a date with you? Ino asked, staring at him. Naruto put on a hurt look. Wow, I actually thought you liked me, Ino. But I was wrong, he shook his head, smiling sadly. Let's call it a day, Sasuke. I don't think I'll be able to come in tomorrow. I'm a little hurt at the moment. It might take some time to recover. Damn, don't think I can even stand you. Sakura obsesses over you and even the delightful Ino. You almost sound believable, you know. Wait, Sakura butt in, a surprised look on her face. He was faking that. Naruto and Ino looked at each other before shaking their heads. Was there something in particular you wanted? Kakashi-sensei said I could join you too. He said it would help better improve our teamwork. Great. It was not Naruto who responded, but Sasuke. He wasn't being sarcastic either. The Uchiha then stood and then faced Naruto. Tomorrow, then. Naruto nodded. Sasuke then turned to walk away. Wait, team. Naruto called. You forgot something. Sasuke stopped and then turned around. He gave that look that clearly said, what? In the most unpleasant way. The chip you carry on your shoulder. Sasuke glared. Naruto laughed. Amused, Ino gave her hand to help Naruto get up. Once he took it, she spoke. Are you always like this? What? Pissing off Sasuke. And making fun at the expense of Sakura? Of course not. I'm a delightful person, he replied with a foxy grin. Sakura doesn't say. Naruto shrugged and leaned in on Ino's right side. And then whispered. Sasuke has her so whipped. I can save her life now while he just watches without interest, and she could go and dream that I was Sasuke who saved her life and wake up the following day believing so. Ino scoffed, but she would not disagree with Naruto. When it came to Sasuke, Sakura didn't want to hear anything. Her devotion and love for him was honestly disturbing. She just could never grow out of her academy days fantasies. She shook her head. At least, since graduating and experiencing a bit more of the shinobi world, she had grown. Sasuke didn't care for Sakura. It was debatable that her friend even saw this. Even if she did, she most likely had some reason or an excuse to condone it. You are her teammate, aren't you supposed to help? Naruto shrugged, removing himself from Ino. I try, he said before turning to Sakura. Be here tomorrow at 8 a.m. He then smiled at Ino. Later, Ino-chan. Ino thought to give him the middle finger, but she smiled warmly. The poor guy already had a tough time living in this village, and he was not a bad person despite what others may claim. She just wished Sakura was a little nicer to him. What is with you and him? Ino shrugged. I should be asking you the same question. He gets in the way. Jealousy isn't a good thing, Sakura. I don't want to hear that from you. Well, Naruto was right. When it came to Sasuke, Sakura was stubborn. But she could understand, she too had been stuck in this kind of life before. She had been a fangirl, competing with Sakura and the other girls, because Sasuke was cool. But now, she didn't think so. Hokage office. The Sandaime smiled pleasantly after Jiraiya stepped into his office. It always gave him some comfort when he saw his only loyal student around. It gave him a pat on the back, always telling himself that not everything he has done was a total loss. He shouldn't even be active now, but he couldn't quit, because his students had disappointed. But at least, Jiraiya was still breathing and serving Konoha to the best of his abilities. When did you return, Jiraiya? Yesterday, the Sannin responded, staring at his sensei. You look a little happier than last time I saw you. I was still dealing with Naruto after he confronted me about the Kyuubi. He smiled. He should have known that it would happen. The bayou was sealed within after all. It was a difficult moment for him. He'd never seen Naruto look so betrayed and hurt. For some days, he thought that perhaps his relationship with Naruto was over. But now things are looking good. For you maybe. Jiraiya paused, shaking his head. I met him, my road is going to be a little more difficult. Hardly surprising. Ever since realizing that I kept the truth about the Kyuubi from him, Naruto has come to conclude that there are many things I'm hiding from him, even about his parents. That was a touchy subject that Hiruzen always tried to ignore, but he had a feeling, Naruto suspected something. He just could never ask because he knew it was going to be an emotional talk that may not be pleasant for him. He knew, it was only a matter of time before this happened. You think he knows something? I don't know, he probably suspects something. He is not that stupid, and we don't know what Orochimaru told him. Hiruzen shook his head. He always dreaded the thought. Have you spoken to Tsunade? I saw her. The Sannin frowned. She refused to return, still racking up gambling debts and roaming around freely. She is only safe because she is a Sannin. He shook his head. She won't return. Allowing Tsunade to roam free despite her talents, one of the things that has earned him some angry retorts from Danzo. Worse, there was also Orochimaru, who he had allowed to leave, simply because he could not kill his own student. But he'd understood Tsunade's pain and allowed her to cool her head, but it didn't seem like she was ever going to come back home. You think I have given her enough to work over her issues? Well, it isn't like you can send Anbu after her. But you can force her to return. Tsunade is a valuable kunoichi to Konoha, and we are wasting her talents by allowing her to roam free. Naive, indecisive, and frequently lacking the spine to do what has been done. The thoughts haunted Hiruzen. You've just never been willing to go that far. Jiraiya cared for Tsunade, but he didn't know about forcing her to return to the village. There was no war. The village was not under any attack. She was not needed, but he understood. Hiruzen wanted someone to replace him as Hokage. He had already turned down the request, but maybe Tsunade could do it. When you meet her next time, tell her she will be branded a rogue shinobi and a bounty on her head will be placed. That puts her life in danger. There are dangerous criminals out there who wouldn't waste time terrorizing her. She is powerful enough to handle any threats, but if she does not want to face that threat, she just has to return home. She doesn't have to become Hokage. She can run the hospital and train new pupils. The village is lacking in recent years. If you are not going to do it, I will send someone else to send the message. Hiruzen spoke in a hardened tone, staring directly at the Sannin. Jiraiya merely nodded. He wasn't going to argue with the third. The Akatsuki is still making moves. But Orochimaru has already left the organization. Their objective is something that remains unknown. However, we must continue to keep an eye on them. If the likes of Itachi are part of the group, it really has to be taken seriously. The great nations were never at peace with each other. As long as the other was not threatened by the Akatsuki, no one was going to do anything. Hiruzen had even heard that the Tsushikage was excessively using the organization, and even Kumo at some point. There was word that even the Kazekage was using it. They seemed to be effective in their missions. No one saw them as a threat. As long as they did their work outside of the great nations. Keep an eye on things. We thought his place in the Sound was only a place for hideouts, but it has now become a fully fledged village. He smiled bitterly. But knowing him, it is just another way for him to get access to people for his experiments. He already has hideouts around the shinobi world. Yes. Find out whatever information you can find about this village. And be in contact with the Sound. We cannot in good conscience just watch when we know what is happening. He is our problem, and we will deal with it. Hiruzen knew that Jiraiya had never had any intentions of killing his former friend. But Hiruzen was now willing to do what must be done. What was love when it ignored the suffering of the many people in favor of a twisted shinobi who only cared about his experiments and power? You want to invade the Sound. Orochimaru's village, the third Hokage corrected. Get me the information I need and I will decide what must happen. If Orochimaru's village becomes strong, he will no doubt come after Konoha. He already holds a grudge. You think he would attack Konoha? Jiraiya wanted to reject this, but this was Orochimaru they were talking about. He was arrogant enough to plan an attack and twisted enough to make an attempt to execute it. How things change. Some years ago, he was trying to get the man to return to the village. But who would have accepted him after what he did? And not to mention, he had already hit them where it hurt the most, with Naruto. Of course, that was something they all tried to ignore. The village didn't even know about, only a few knew. If they knew, it would only add to the burden on Naruto. Speaking in a bitter tone, the Toad Sage added. We speak of wanting peace, but even after everything that Orochimaru did, I was willing to forgive him because he was a friend. But now I think about, what about those many parents who lost their children because of him? Who was even going to forgive him for his crimes? He hasn't even stopped doing what he was doing in this village. We are often willing to overlook certain things when it affects us personally. And when we think it is someone we know, we always think that there is a chance for them to repent, ignoring the pain of others. Hiruzen smiled. We are all guilty of that in some times of our lives. But we must now do what we must be done. Orochimaru cannot be changed. I wish he could, but we cannot ignore what he has done. If he was someone we had no personal connection with, we wouldn't care. What the Akatsuki is doing now is less horrible compared to the pain and damage he has done. But with them, we are quick to act. Because we have no relations. He shook his head. One person who'd gladly even lead the attack would be Danzo. He has campaigned for action to be taken against the Sannin for a long time now. I will gather what I can. Jiraiya's expression turned serious. Do you talk about what happened with Naruto after Orochimaru had him kidnapped? Hiruzen's smile slipped. No, it is something that still weighs on Naruto heavily. From the village to Orochimaru, that is something I think he tries to pretend never even happened. That is helped because memories are bundled. We had considered sealing those memories, but it would have done more harm than good. We will eventually have to deal with it. Of course. I'm waiting on him to talk about it. For now, Naruto is happy. He has friends, and is finding ways to deal with the village's hatred. I want him to handle things at his pace. He performs well when no one is rushing him. Kakashi has always been a complicated person but easy to deal with. But Kurenai couldn't say he was her friend. She'd only joined the Jonin Club only recently. Even when the Kyuubi was attacking Konoha, she was one of those who were not allowed to enter the battlefield because they were young ones who had a bright future ahead of them. She smiled, looking at the silver-haired Jonin who was walking up to her, hands inside his pockets, a rather disinterested look about him. Then again, as far as she has known, he has always been like that. Sorry to call you out so suddenly. Kakashi waved his right hand. I wasn't doing anything. I called you out because one of your students made a request to me a couple of days ago. I wasn't sure how to handle it, so I thought it would be best to speak to you first before making a decision. Kakashi had thought she wanted something, personally, but not one of his students going to her. For a moment, he stared at her. If anyone was approaching her it would be about genjutsu. The only person who'd ask that was most likely Sakura. She was the one who showed promise due to her excellent chakra control. But Sakura asking help on training to another sensei. It didn't seem to fit. From what he knew, she had quit training with both her teammates after the first day. But anything could happen. Sakura. Kurenai shook her head. Naruto. That was surprising. He didn't see it coming. Kakashi had to stare at the woman to see if she wasn't just joking. But Naruto and genjutsu. The two didn't seem to click. Naruto wasn't even suited for genjutsu. I thought the person asking you would be Sakura. She has displayed potential with genjutsu. Naruto on the other hand has massive chakra reserves, and no perfect control over it. He mentioned that, and still wants to learn genjutsu. You didn't know about it. Kakashi shook his head. He has been training with Sasuke over the past week. He didn't say anything about it last time we spoke. Oh, Kurenai paused, thinking. He didn't say he want to exactly learn how to use genjutsu. He said he wants to understand it because it was his weakness. I don't have a problem with it, but he is your student, and I didn't want to start teaching him anything without talking to you first. No, it is fine, Kakashi replied. If Naruto wants to learn and if you have no problem with it, you can teach him. Considering that Naruto was the Jinchuriki with a rather dark cloud following him around, Kakashi thought she would have reservations about it. He smiled, at least even with everything, there were people who were willing to overlook all that and do what they thought was right. And the third Hokage. Should I speak to him as well? I mean, given his special circumstances, Kurenai spoke with caution. Kakashi shrugged indifferently. It won't be a problem. But if you want to be at ease, you can still speak to him. Training Ground 7. If there was anything disappointing about this team, it had to be Haruno Sakura. Ever since she joined them for a single training session and then walked away halfway, Naruto had never seen her again. Perhaps he and Sasuke had pushed her a little harder. She had gone home limping and battered. But pushing her limits was the best way to improve her. The Uchiha had predicted that she wouldn't return. Not that it hadn't been a prediction worth gloating about. Sakura refused to do hard, and had said their training was too hard for her. It should have been suspected that she would quit, but not halfway through the first day. You're making me uncomfortable. Sakura gave Naruto a side glance. They were standing under a tree, waiting for their sensei to arrive. Sasuke was sitting up on the tree, looking like he would rather be somewhere than here. She knew why Naruto was staring and she knew it was disappointing, but it didn't make her feel any good. Sorry, I got lost in thought. Why do you think Kakashi-sensei called us? Mission most likely. Some clients choose who they want. I wouldn't be surprised if some people come to choose our sensei. He is famous after all. They'd probably be horrified that the famous Jonin was a tardy kind of person who didn't seem to take things seriously. Naruto knew better, of course. Everyone had his own demons to fight. He'd come to see that in this life of a journey, it was a rough ride that would cripple him if he was not strong enough. The hatred from the villagers. He'd managed to stomach it. But the shinobi world could corrupt it all by forcing him into situations where someone had to die to protect his teammates or the mission. I thought we'd get a little more time. Naruto shrugged. He glanced up at Sasuke for a moment before shaking his head. It complicates things, especially if it is one that takes us a little too far from the village. Indifferent. No, he would be disappointed if that was going to be case. After all, he hadn't even heard back from Kurenai to even begin his study of genjutsu. Yo, Kakashi greeted after popping up in a puff of smoke. Sakura wanted to shout that the man was late, but decided against it. She just sighed and stared at her sensei, hoping that he would not say anything about her running away from training with Sasuke and Naruto. She was glad when he went directly to business. We have a mission. No more training for today. Make sure that you recover and get enough rest. Meet me at the Hokage Tower tomorrow at 1 p.m. sharp. And pack enough gear to last over 3 weeks or more. After saying that, the Jonin disappeared in a puff of smoke. Later that night, still up, Naruto didn't immediately respond, but stared down at the village streets from the rooftop of his building. The sky was dark, but the lights brought in light. However, the alleys were dark and some nasty things happened there. Naruto had seen his fair share of madness while wandering about the night streets as a little boy, trying to find a hole he could crawl into and escape the misery that was his lonely life. Trying to settle my thoughts. Naruto responded in a quiet tone while glancing at Kakashi through the corner of his eyes. Something troubling you. Did he have that kind of relationship with his sensei? Naruto wondered. The Jonin was a good person. He respected friendship and always taught them to value it more than the mission. Just thinking about the future. Nothing seems as straightforward as it does when you're dreaming as a little kid. You're still a child. Well, by the time you were my age, you were already fighting a war. But, I think I've heard my fair share of troubles. He stared at the streets once more, searching the night. I actually wanted to talk to you. This late. Kakashi shrugged. Jiraiya-sama told me he spoke to you about signing the summoning contract. He did come to me about it. Kakashi hesitated for a moment. He would rather have Naruto sign the contract, but simply because he knew how beneficial it would be for the team. Jiraiya had other reasons and Naruto most likely suspected this to be the case, hence his refusal. Unlike my summons which only help when tracking, the Toads can work as the 5th and 6th members of the team. They would offer protection and firepower when needed. As the team becomes stronger despite your ranking, we will do dangerous missions. And the Toads can only be useful. Naruto stared at Kakashi with an expressionless mask. After a moment, his eyes went back to his staring contest with the streets. You give more details than the Sannin. And I'm not sure if you're trying to make me feel bad or not. Because when you say it like that, my decision sounds irrational. Kakashi had flinched slightly when Naruto gave him a look. Even within the darkness, those eyes could be so clear. There wasn't a hint of coldness or hatred. The lack of any emotion was what made his skin crawl. It was not the first time he'd seen such a look from Naruto. I'm not trying to do that. Naruto nodded. You're not manipulative, sensei. I hardly think you'd go that far to your student. You have displayed nothing but love and care for us. He stood up, placing both hands inside his pockets. You're here because Jiraiya is still in the village. And since we leave tomorrow, you want us to have everything we can have. Yes. But I'm still not going to sign the contract. I'm still weak, I know this much. And I don't refuse help because I know there is much to learn for me to grow. There was so much left unsaid that Kakashi wondered if he should ask. But he just kept Naruto's unsaid words and watched the blonde walk away from him. Sakura nervously glanced at the smiling Hokage and then at their sensei. She'd expected to see their client in the office, but they were not here. It was just the four of them, and then the Sandaime. She shook her head. She had packed everything. There was no need to be nervous, even though this was apparently going to be a long mission. Being away for far too long was normal, but she did hate sleeping in a tent. It was part of being a kunoichi, she just had to get used to it. The Sandaime gave Kakashi a scroll and then dismissed them from the office. The three genin went outside and waited for their sensei. Is your team going to be alright? It might get dangerous, and since you're going far away, it would be better to be safe. The payment is enough for such measures. Kakashi shook his head. We are fine. Sasuke is able to fight a Chunin on his own. And Naruto can use his shadow clones to overwhelm even a Jonin. Together, they create quite the pair. And that is when he isn't even using Mokuton. I'm sure Naruto and Sasuke can take care of themselves. I've been observing them. Naruto has also made some massive improvements due to the scrolls one gave him. He even showed me a jutsu as a thank you. Hiruzen shook his head. It was beyond what a genin should be able to do. At this rate, Naruto could go on to match the heights of the Shodai Hokage. And that is excluding the power of the Kyuubi. It may be that Naruto will never have to depend on it. It is your other student I'm most worried about. Kakashi released a long breath. The eye smile disappeared as he thought deep. Still living in fantasy land. But slowly, she is getting in grips with the shinobi world. Is that your method? To teach them through experience? I just think it is better. They decide for themselves whether this is the life for them. If Sakura doesn't feel this life is not for her, she will quit it. The Jonin explained. But I was disappointed that she was not the one who asked Kurenai about genjutsu. The third Hokage smiled at this. He'd been surprised when Kurenai came up to him. Of all people, he would have never expected Naruto to be the one to attempt to learn genjutsu. It didn't seem like it suited his fighting style. But it was important for a shinobi to know all the basic fighting styles to better prepare for when you must face against them. Naruto had the chakra and capacity to learn various styles without overloading himself. If you're not willing to give it a push, she won't move. According to your reports, Sakura is more concerned about trying to impress Sasuke than training. That is the challenge, but Naruto is slowly urging her away. Hiruzen shook his head. At this point, she is far behind her teammates and will create an imbalance. If she lags far behind her teammates, it becomes a problem. You know this, the more dangerous missions you take, the more of a burden she becomes to the team. You have already noted as much in your reports. This is her last mission. If you cannot sort her out, I will remove her from the team and put on someone who will not be a burden to the team. He should have expected this would happen. In almost all missions, Sakura was defenseless. She didn't have anyone's back, but someone always had to have her back. He had already seen the problem it was creating. Naruto usually had to do both his and her duties. Sasuke refused to handle it unless he was forced. This harmony was not going to last forever. He sighed. He didn't want the team to be broken up. But at this point, Sakura was likely going to end up getting killed or one of her teammates hurt because of her weaknesses. And not to mention, their missions could be jeopardized because the team would try to save her and risk the mission. The Sandaime was trying to avoid this situation. Naruto would probably express sadness if she was booted from the team, and Sasuke was likely to just shrug. Or maybe even express hope that their new teammate would become an upgrade. Either way, it wasn't something Sakura was going to take in too well. I understand. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.